Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The young 18-year-old British heavyweight prospect Moses Itauma has been taken the distance for the first time, getting a comfortable decision 60-54 over 6 rounds versus the durable, teak-tough Ukrainian journeyman Kostiantyn Dovbyshchenko. But athletes being what they are, Moses Itauma was extremely disappointed after the fight, and we'll come to that. But this was, as I mentioned in my pre-fight video, a pretty big step up from the absolute dross Itoma had been facing. So this always had rounds written all over it in my view. So I wasn't shocked that it went the distance because Dovbyshchenko has faced a lot of decent heavyweight prospects. He's never been stopped. And this was a case of Moses Itauma. First couple of rounds, he came out pretty hot, pretty strong, and it was a fast start. He was landing good body shots in particular, sinking in sickening and hurtful body shots, and also landing a few decent left hands. But after about round 2, the pace slackened off a bit. Obviously, the message to Itoma was clear that you're going to have to break this guy down to stop him. One punch will not do the job. So the pace slackened, and Itoma basically picked his shots for the most part, and it was a comfortable performance, a comfortable win. At one point, I think it was at the end of round 3 or round 4, it looked to maybe have hurt his lead hand, remembering he's a southpaw, and after the fight, he did speak of that. But it was a case where he controlled the fight and the action. Dovbyshchenko had the odd moment of success, but it was few and far between. His job was to go rounds, and he did his job. He's never been stopped, and that record continued. But after the fight, I was more than a little surprised, actually, that Itoma was so disappointed. He said he wanted to give the fans value for money and all that sort of stuff, and he literally said, I have to go back to the drawing board now. And I was thinking, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. This was a fight that was always going to go rounds, but I guess he's got high standards, and as an athlete, he wants to deliver, and I think he probably thought he would be the first guy to stop Dovbyshchenko, who's faced the likes of Vlad Zarenko. You've also had Zan Kosabutsky, who's a big puncher. So there's a number of guys that he's faced in recent years, just came off a good fight against Jose Lardaway. No one really put a dent in him. And it was the same here. He never looked on the verge of being stopped or anything like that, although you could see some of the body work and the occasional left hand, and there was one really good uppercut, did momentarily back him up, and you could tell that he felt the weight of the shot. But this was all about getting rounds and experience for Itoma. The first couple of chumps that he had first up, they basically were paid to fall down. And that's, one guy was partially hit on they were basically looking for the spot on the canvas before the punches were thrown. So this is why in the pre-fight video I said this was a massive step up. And it wasn't beyond him or anything like that. He was clearly ready for the challenge of this level of opponent. But mentally, he obviously thought he should have done better. But it's a valuable lesson as well, because there sometimes ends up being that tired, worn storyline of knockout streaks or first round, second round knockouts, all that sort of stuff. 14-0, 14 knockouts. And that in itself sometimes causes fighters to rely too much on their power. They go looking for the big shots. But bringing this guy in now just takes some of that hype away, some of that expectation, and shows the fighter himself he needs to rely on his boxing, on his skills, that it's not just about raw aggression and power, that he actually has to rely on his toolbox to break a fighter down. And there were probably opportunities in those later rounds where a little bit more volume, just keep working on a few things to, sort of pry open that high kite guard. But the kid's 18. You've got to give him time. I know some people will say he's a hype job or whatever, but clearly from what we saw in there, he's very talented. And at 18 years old, he's only going to get better. He's not 21, 23 or anything, which is still extremely young. He's 18. And we actually saw in the fight a little something different in the latter rounds as Dovbyshchenko was the one starting to press forward and trying to, put Itoma under pressure. You saw Itoma's back foot game. And he was moving well, he was loose, he was languid, he was picking his shots well. I think overall it was a good performance and basically what I expected of Itoma at this stage in his career. It's only going to get better as he develops into his body and becomes, a fully fledged man. I mean, he's already 6'4" and 247, but you know what I mean. He will grow into his body as he ages as well. So he is going to be a problem. But I do think that this was a good fight and a valuable lesson. And his promoter or manager, George Warren, said as much as well. So I think for some people, they won't be impressed. But I think this could have been the right fight at the right time to get that message across to Itoma. He cannot slack off on the boxing and the skills. He's going to need this in the heavyweight division. Not everyone is going to fall down the first time they get hit by him. Or in fact, if they take a few heavy combos, some fighters can just take it and continue to throw punches. In Dovbyshchenko, he didn't have someone who really had much of an attack, but these were valuable rounds. What did you make of the fight? What did you make of Moses Itoma's reaction? I think maybe to be expected to some degree, sets high standards and holds himself to those standards, but I think this was going to happen eventually, and they've obviously thought this lesson was good for now. Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.